So if you like to fish freshwater or saltwater, this is going to be the place you want to be. There's no time like the springtime, and our 6 guides are standing by with the 411 on where to fish for the weekend. So sit back, get ready, because it's time for the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Hello, Texans, and welcome to 2021. Wow, 2021.
Wow.
Wow, that's a lot of 20s. Here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, we're your hosts, Brie Gabrielle and Captain Rick Murphy, bringing you all of the fish-worthy news from around the state with the help of our trusty guides and captains. Rick, we've got a ton of exciting things happening this season.
Absolutely, Brie. You know, the one thing that comes to mind is when I think about the off-season of all the great products that we've been able to secure as sponsors, but more importantly, to test them. And I can't wait to share that with all the viewers in Texas about some of the cool things coming down the pike from some new guys.
It's going to be good. But before we get to our reports, captains, and our guests from Power Pole and Taco Marine, we need to welcome back our tried and true workbench guru, Dave Farrell, who's looking mighty ready to start the season over there.
I am ready. I'm glad to be back. It's so good to be back, and hopefully we can show you some really cool stuff today.
Sounds good to me. Well, I know we're more than ready than ever, so let's get our Upper Fresh Region guide, Johnny Geis, on the line to talk about Lake Tawakoni, Fork, and O.H. Ivy. Johnny, welcome back.
Hello, Rick and Bree.
How you doing, Johnny?
Welcome to our viewers, our sponsors, and I'm excited to kick off this first Texas Insider Fishing Report of this season. So, the Upper Fresh Region, it started fishing so good in January, and man, everything was right on schedule. But mid-February, about the time these bass started to move up to spawn, we had a record cold snap here in Texas. We had record snow levels, low temperatures, and we even had frozen over lakes. So our water temperatures dropped down to the 40s and high 30s, and Lake Fork even had a 3 to 4 inch layer of ice over most all the shallower coves, and that hardly ever happens in Texas. Well, hey, that said though, the big bass fishing has been tremendous since then, and Texas has already had 23 share lunkers. 5 of them have been over 15 pounds. A Texas share lunker is a bass weighing over 13 pounds. Angler that catches that bass between January 1st and March 31st donates it to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Hatchery to spawn and produce some big bass fingerlings. Most of these big bass, 9 of them have been coming from Lake O.H. Ivy. 2 of the share lunkers have come out of Fork already, out of the Upper Fresh Region, but I expect several more in the month of April. April's shaping up to be a great fishing month. Texas is open for business, and the bass spawn is just starting here, and it's time to get on the water and enjoy some exciting big fish action. So, hey, let's get on with the report. Start up with the report on Lake Tawakoni. The trophy blue catfish. Lake Tawakoni's been producing some huge catfish all winter, and the big blues are on the move to the shallows of spawn. Guide buddy Captain Matt Cartwright reports excellent bite using cut bait, less than 20 foot of water. Matt's using large gizzard shad to catch the big blues. He's locating the big catfish on his Garmin side scan unit, and most of the big blue catfish that they catch are returned back into the lake over 10 pounds, but customers enjoy eating some table fare too. So here's a picture of a pending youth and Lake Tawakoni record caught by 12-year-old Kay Childress. Look at this Lake Tawakoni monster weighing in at 72.4 pounds. Rick, that's a big catfish.
Bub, it looks like a nurse shark. Congratulations to that young man for catching that fish. All right, tell me about the crappies, Johnny.
Okay, that blue catfish is going to get started, and Matt's going to be on the stripers and hybrids. We're doing crappie on Fork right now. The shallow water crappie bite is going strong. We're using a cork and a minnow rig, 1 to 3 foot. The crappie jigs by Bass Assassin's working great here. Here's a good tip a customer showed me last spring. Cut a 3-inch cylindrical cork in half. Use the cork like a popping cork to peg your line through the cork. Fish that jig a few feet under the cork. Slowly retrieve your lure by just twitching it along. This will attract some big crappie to your jig. So look for these spawning crappie on Fork along the shorelines and protected coves and around the old ponds. I'm using my Garmin live scope again to locate and catch spawning crappie. So If you're only catching the male crappie, back out about the 9 to 12 foot of depth and look for the big females. They're holding on the timber. Here's a good picture showing the size of some big crappies on Lake Fork. Look who was fishing with me then.
Oh, that was a good day.
What a day. That's all right.
Okay, just going over to these largemouth bass, what a day it was today. The spawn started much later this year on Fork due to severe cold weather, but there was not much of a spawn in February, wasn't hardly any in March, and the first bass spawn is now in full swing. We're seeing some huge numbers of fishermen coming to Fork this spring, and the bass are getting very spooky. Once you get in an area that produces a few bites, put down your power poles, slow down, and fish that area thoroughly. It can take numerous casts to the same cover to produce a bite. Sometimes you catch several fish on the same piece of the cover. The best lures have been the vibrating jigs, the plastic stick baits, and lizards and green pumpkin and Texas smoke. So if you're into night fishing, one of the best ways to catch a 10-pound bass right now is under the green lights around the docks. A big swim jig's a good bait to use also. I love guiding customers to catch their largest bass ever. Here's a picture of 12-year-old Caden Book with his personal best caught a couple of weeks ago. The young man had a pretty nice bass. And just hot off the presses, this picture here is a picture of a 15.47 caught this past weekend at the Skeeter Mega Bass Tournament by Tanner Spurgeon. So
wow.
The bite's on fire on Fork. My new Skeeter SX210 and Yamaha are ready for business. And I'm getting in those Abu Garcia rod and reels and everything, Rick, shaping up for some great springtime fishing. So, hey, let's go catching in the Upper Fresh region.
All right, buddy. Thank you so much. Time to take a look at the Upper Fresh hotspots. Johnny says Lake Tawakoni is producing giant trophy blue catfish using cut bait. The catfish are moving shallow. The water level is full and 58-degree water temperature. Lake Fork has big crappie and bass spawning in the shallows, jigs and minnows under the cork for crappie, and best to use soft plastics for the bass. The bass are also on the beds, Brie.
Their faces said it all. That was a big bass.
That was Fishburne, man. And Fish
so
knows
good.
about big fish, man.
Yep. All right, next up is Captain Carl Weston in the FISHBITES Upper Coast region, where offshore and inshore are producing some big bites. Good to have you back, Carl.
Hey, it's great to be back. Missed you guys this winter, and ready to have some fun this season. So let's kick it off by chasing some bull reds here in the Upper Coast. The jetties in our area have been giving us some pretty nice fish the last couple weeks. And with the cooler weather we've been experiencing the last 2 months, these fish are stuck in the 35 to 40-foot range, but the bite is staying solid. As you begin to search for these fish, watch for the pelicans and seagulls in your target area. Once you've located the school, we put down 2 baits on the bottom, and this rig will usually consist of a 6-ounce egg sinker started on a 3-foot length of 30-pound diamond mamoy tied to about a 6-aught eagle claw hook. Tip this with a whole squid or a sardine and hang on. You can also sweeten the pot by tossing out a chum bag. This will add a little scent to the water and attract the fish closer to the boat, and you'll get a chance to run more free lines out behind the boat, more baits. And today we have a picture of Captain Brian Wilson with a young angler in his first real nice redfish.
Nice picture, Carl. All right, what else you got for us?
Well, trout. Like I said, when in doubt, go fish for trout in the Upper Coast. The larger trout have been schooling in the deep water potholes and drop-offs in the middle of Galveston Bay. With the water temp around 64 degrees, we've been seeing more and more bait fish in the area. And as we touched on earlier, the old eye in the sky, check birds, pelicans, and that rule applies. Find the birds, you'll find the bait, and you'll find the fish. This time of year, finger mullet live shrimp are going to be your best friends. Simply rig them on a popping cork. If you're using artificial, such as a Mirror swim bait, Bass Assassin, or like the 4-inch shrimp on a 1-ounce jig head, this will do the trick too, guys. And we have a picture today of a monster springtime trout.
Wow, that is a monster. All right, Bub,
It
let's go offshore. Tell me about some tunas.
Okay, moving into the deep blue water, the yellowfin tuna bite has been great all winter. Night chunk at the deep water rigs, Boom Bang and Nansen, has been a peak tuna time. The offshore temp right now is like 67.9, and the bait is at full force around the rigs. When you reach the rig, it's always a good idea to circle around, check your Garmin bottom machine for bait. Bait balls are usually found on the up current side of the rig. So getting set up to bring in a tuna starts with rigging and gear, guys. Personally, I use the smallest fluorocarbon and hook in the setup I can. Reason being, tuna are super picky eaters and can spot the hook and leader very easily. You got to hide it well within the bait. So let's talk gear now. Our rod and reel setup of choice is Penn International 30 or 50 wide, minimum 50 to 80 class rod. We spool it with diamond mamoy or braid, nothing less than 50 pounds. You know, the worst feeling is losing a catch of a lifetime because your gear and rigs were wrong. Quality will help bring in these fish, and let the battle begin, as they say. We've got a group picture here of a nice tuna we caught.
Nice. All right, one more to go, big boy.
Let's go. Let's go to wahoo. Like I said, I got 3 of them on the side of the boat at all times. The winter wahoo bite's still on fire, guys. One thing you can depend on here in the upper coast is aggressive and fast wahoo bite. The east and west flower gardens are approximately 100 miles offshore of Galveston, Texas. Most anglers like to leave the dock around midnight to make sure they hit that gray light time. And as you know, Rick, the first hour of daylight is explosive for this species. We like to fast troll large, dark baits and lures. The Wahoo Magnet Senior by R&R Tack was our preferred choice in the black or dark blue color. This lure is ready to fish. So you just tie it on, put that baby in the water. Now you can run this lure naked or rigged with a ballyhoo. Either is a great choice. When you get hooked up on a wahoo, just remember, don't cut back on the throttles. Keep that line tight or you'll lose these fish, and it's hard to take pics of the ones you lose. And here's a picture of Brandon today with a beautiful wahoo.
All right, Carl, you guys did a good job tonight, and we're going to go ahead and take a look at the R&R tackle hotspots from the Upper Coast region. He says inshore redfish, the bull reds in the channel and on the beach front, in 35 to 40 feet of water, drifting sardines and squid. And then offshore, check out the tunas. Fish at the floaters, chunking sardines, and cut bait.
All right, we're moving this party into the STARTRON Middle Fresh region when we return, but I know Dave Farrell at the workbench is just itching to get some rigs and techniques out of his system. So after 6 months off, Dave, I know you have so much to say. I'm
not that itchy, but we're gonna talk about these cool way to target bass on the move during the spring, a nice swim bait.
Well, I'm itching to hear what you have to say. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Bajío. Fresh eyes for a rich life. Garmin. Plot your paradise. Fibertex. Leaders in fiberglass fabrication and repair. Sportsman's Adventures. Fishing for adventure. Penn. Let the battle begin. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Reliability. Yamaha is known for it. And it's something boaters value, because these days, few things are built to last. When we find something that is, we hold on to friendships, traditions, outboards. Because every second on the water is sacred. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life. Because reliability starts here.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore. Kick your gas into gear with STARTRON. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with STARTRON.
For the Bay and beyond, team up with the best and rule the Bay in a Skeeter. Built for big water or running the flats, Skeeter has a Bay boat designed for you. Prove it with 20 consecutive NMMA Consumer Satisfaction Awards. Versatility, control, performance, and design. Visit your local dealer or online at SkeeterBoats.com. Skeeter, it's more than a boat, it's a lifestyle.
Have you ever felt your heart pounding while feeling the power of a tarpon in the Florida Keys? Or experienced the changing colors of a mahi as you bring it on board? Whether it's in the Bahamas, the Florida Keys, Guatemala, or the Florida Everglades, Murphy's Law Sports Fishing has the ability to guide you to the fish of a lifetime. To book your trip today, call 305-246-0673 or go to murphyslawsportfishing.com.
Well, we're here at the workbench. Time for
Yes, sir.
rigs and techniques, and that's Dave's specialty. So what do you got this week, Dave?
Well, I called up Matt Losher and asked him what the heck's going on up there, and he said, well, the fish are moving around a lot. They're, some of them are spawning, some of them are not spawning, so they're moving in between the spawning areas and the points and whatnot. So he's searching for them, and a good search bait is a swim jig. It's a really versatile bait. And it's great for the spring fishery because you can target fish in really shallow water or even in heavy cover, and it gets right through it without having to worry about it too much. And we'll talk a little bit about the anatomy of a swim jig. And
okay.
Pretty much they all have a pointy nose on them, and that's to penetrate through that cover when you're winding them in. They all have a really heavy weed guard.
Right.
They usually have a pretty stout hook on them because
Right.
you're moving them pretty fast when they get eaten.
Right.
And they always, usually have a good keeper for a trailer.
Some kind of trailer.
Most guys will put a trailer on them. You don't
So
have
what
to
is
put a
this
trailer on
one?
them.
This is a Bass Assassin?
I think that's a gambler with a Bass Assassin logger toad on it.
Okay.
Yep, and that's a booyah with a Bass Assassin sea shad on
Now
it.
this one has a rattle in it.
Yeah, some of them have rattles. Because that bait is meant to be moved. Matt says, when he swims with these baits, he likes to keep them moving. He uses a Stanley Max in a white or a bluegill, and usually paired up with a claw or a paddle tail. But he likes to keep them moving. That thing needs to be moving, and you can burn it over shallow grass or stump areas, any kind of wood. And it's great because you can drop it. You can be cruising along, get next to a log, you can just drop it and let it go down to the bottom and let it work a fish that's laying at the bottom of the log, or you can just burn it by there and hope that he comes up and nails it. And that's what usually happens is you get a really good hard strike with these things because you're cruising along. And if you want to keep it up close to the surface, you don't want it to bulge. You don't want it to come out of the water. You want it to just bulge the water as you're moving it through, so it creates kind of a wake on the surface. Mm-hmm. And then you can like I said, you can either slow it down, change direction, do what you got to do to trigger that bite. And it's a great replacement for a spinner bait, a square bill crankbait, a chatterbait. A lot of guys will use a chatterbait because you can cover more ground with it. You got to move a chatterbait pretty slow. As soon as it starts to chatter is when I stop that and let it do its thing.
So Dave, typically the rod you'd want to use 7 foot, 7.6.
Yeah, you want pretty stout rod. You want a nice fast action. A slow action rod, nice stout rod, and a high rate of retrieve. That little Revos S right there, you get 27 inches per turn.
Yeah.
So it's cooking, and that's a good thing. Because you can go fast if you want to without cranking your arm off, or you can slow it down and still get a good speed.
And some of the Abus have up to 24 pounds of drag.
Yeah,
So like the Revo Rocket, which is a 7.0 retrieve ratio.
Right. Well, 20 pounds of drag is a lot of drag.
And what size diamond are you putting on here? 40?
40-pound test, and then, 20-pound, 30-pound fluoro, because it's moving, so you really don't have to worry about them seeing the leader and all that too much, because it's cooking and moving and covering ground.
Man, you did good.
Oh.
I want more. I ran out of time.
I know,
I'm sorry.
I want more too, Dave. I told you had good things to say today. Good job.
Good job, Dave.
Good job. All right, the STARTRON Middle Fresh region sure is looking like a sure thing, especially on LBJ, Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn, and Richland Chambers. So let's welcome back your guide, Matt Losher, to find out what we need to do to get the job done. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Brie. I'm super excited to start this new season, and I got a great report to start out with because everything's biting over here right now and all over the Middle Fresh region. It's just a great time to be fishing. So I'm going to kick it off this season with bass first. We're going to start talking about spawning mostly. The bass spawn is in full swing all over the Middle Fresh region right now. So I'm going to start on the east side of the region and kind of work my way west, touching on several Great Lakes that have been hot lately. So kicking it off is good old Toledo Bend. We've had bass here in all phases of the spawn right now. So you'll want to concentrate your efforts on the shallow flats, where they're going to be making their nest and coming and going from the nest, about 1 to 4 feet deep. Texas rig soft plastics on a lightweight have been my go-to for most days. And then the Bass Assassin Little Boss swim bait has been a really good one at times also, especially if you got a little ripple on the water. The bluegill flash color has been the best for me in that. And you want to throw those baits around any cover on those shallow flats that you can find, because the lake's not real high right now, so there's not a lot of shoreline cover, so any stumps or grass that's off the bank on those flats is really good. I've got a photo here for you of a big fat Toledo Bend bass that I caught recently.
Nice.
Snoopy hat and all, so good looking fish there.
All right.
Over to Sam Rayburn. The bass are also hanging out in the flats over there, about all the way out to about 8 feet deep there. There has been some real big weights coming from that lake this season. Multiple 30 to 40 pound stringers have been caught. Been pretty fantastic. There's a fair amount of grass at Rayburn, especially in the mid-lake area. And for me, that Bass Assassin Fat Job has been super consistent for catching them around the grass. Most of the time, I throw it on a Texas rig with an 1/8 ounce weight. But if the wind is really calm, I'll throw it weightless. And if the wind is stronger, I'll go up to a 3/16 ounce weight. So just play with that based on the conditions. And then a swim jig, like you guys were just talking about, in a shad color has really been good as well around that shallow grass. So you can cover water with that and locate them, and it's a really good locator. Moving up a little bit to Richland Chambers, Mr. Thurman Selman up there with Bass Specialty Guide Service reports that lake is in great shape. He says there isn't much grass in the lake right now. He said, but the lake is full and the water looks real good. He says to look for the bass in about 1 to 4 feet deep there as well. The fish on the upper end of the lake, north of 2859, are a little farther along in the spawn. With the water being warmer in that area, a little dingier water warms up faster, so they're a little further along. But the fish are in spawning mode all over the lake, he says. Look for the male bass in the backs of the creek, and the female's about halfway back. Spinnerbait, rattle baits, and sinking worms have all been good for him. So if you'd like to book a trip with Mr. Selman, he can put you on him. Give him a call. I'm going to give you his number real quick, 972-345-9370. Now moving further west, out to LBJ. Going to round out the bass report down there with those guys. Jared Poole with Hill Country Hammer Guide Service. He reports that the bass are once again full-blown spawn mode on that lake, and some fish are already in a post-spawn pattern. They're still catching fish off beds, as well as frogs and swim jigs are good too. Jared and his crew, man, they have just been crushing the big fish this season. I mean, it's been amazing. He sent me so many pictures of 10-pounders, it's making my head spin. So I'm going to round out my bass report this week of an awesome picture of Jared and his buddy, Mr. Alan Barrington, with 2 enormous bass. You've got a 10-pounder there, and the other one is 12 pounds, 11 ounces.
Wow.
That is insane.
All right. Tell me about some white bass before I have a heart attack looking at these 2 largemouth.
All right. So next we're going to talk about the white bass real quick. And for sake of time, I'm just going to report on those white bass that basically they're running up the river on every reservoir I know of in the Middle Fresh region. Road runners and jigs are the ticket for catching them. So get up those rivers. They're making their annual run. It's fantastic. Get your line stretched. Then lastly, going to finish up with the crappie. They have been on fire at Toledo Bend this season. Stumps in about 8 to 12 foot of water are holding them in the spawning areas, and the bridges have been producing some fish as well. Road runners are good, and live minnows in their cork have been real good as well. And then over at Sam Rayburn, pretty much the same pattern, same depth, but a lot of the fish over there are hanging over the grass in that 8 to 12 foot of water. It's not just a stump deal, so look for them in the grass.
Thank you so much, Matt. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Middle Fresh region. Captain Matt says that we're going to look for giant bass that are being caught and swimming or spawning at LBJ, and then the white bass are hot up the river on most of the lakes, and then crappie are biting shallow on Toledo Bend and on Sam Rayburn.
Giant bass, yep, that's for sure. All right, up next, we're heading up our Garmin Middle Coast and Lower Fresh regions for your weekend bite and talking to our friend from Power Pole. But before we go, we just want to give you all a friendly reminder to keep up with everything fishing in Texas. Head over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see all of our fishing adventures, visit our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be right back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. ALVEY Reels, a better way to fish. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Penn, let the battle begin.
The Yamaha VMAX V6 SHO continues to deliver the level of performance that pro bass and multi-species anglers demand. Underneath a bold and aggressive new look, an upgraded charging system with 40% more charging power meets the amped-up demand for today's advanced electronics. The VMAX SHO, raw power, reliability, and exhilarating performance for every angler who loves the sport enough to invest in the best. Yamaha, reliability starts here.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Today's Power Pull tip is about the new Power Pull Charge power management station. The cool thing about the Charge is it replaces 3 systems on your boat. It replaces your traditional 3 or 4 bank battery charger, so when you're at the house you plug it into the wall. The Power Pull Charge is going to optimize and balance your batteries like nothing ever out there. It also replaces your on-the-run charger, so anytime you've got the Yamaha running, it's going to replace the power in your trolling motor batteries and your cranking batteries all day while you're running from spot to spot. And the third thing it does, it's got an emergency start feature in it. So if you're ever out there and your cranking battery dies and you can't get the motor started, go to the Sea Monster app, transfer the power, and you're good to go. Get back to the dock. For any more information about the Power Pull Charge, you can go to powerpull.com or stop by one of your local dealers. That's your Power Pull tip.
Well, as you can tell, I got my buddy Dan Benson. We brought him in so that we could talk even a little more about the Charge. You know, Dan, one of the reasons why I never put a onboard charger on my boat is simply because they are always so heavy when they're 3 and 4 bank. That's certainly not the case with the Charge.
Absolutely not. Before, you had to put in multiple devices, a typical onboard charger, an at-home charger, but with the Charge, it only weighs 8.5 pounds, and it does everything that you just saw in that piece, plus it's easy to install.
So let's talk a little bit about the install. I know that you guys certainly have helped me install mine, made it pretty simple, but let's tell everybody at home how it works.
That's right. It's not like a normal 3-bank or 4-bank charger. We charge more your 24 and your 36 volt batteries as one power system, but then we just have a hot and a cold wire going to your engine battery and your house battery. So we charge both systems when you're at home and when you're out on the water, and it's really easy to put in the boat.
So if you have 2 batteries for your house battery or your engine battery and your Garmin and whatever else you're running, those are hooked up parallel, correct?
Yes. So you just wire them together in parallel and create one big 12 volt battery. And when you set up the app, you add up how many amp hours both those batteries are, and the Charge charges that battery as one giant 12 volt battery.
So where do we go to find out more information about the Charge?
you can go to any Power Pole dealer, powerpole.com, and definitely get on the list because these are flying off the shelves.
I don't doubt that. All right, where are we going next, Brie?
All right, let's say hi to our Garmin Middle Coast Region Captain, Bink Grimes, who is always staying on top of what's beneath. And I know folks have had some questions for you regarding the bite lately, so let's welcome Bink back to the show and get right to it.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. I'm also a big believer in that Garmin, the Power Pole Charge. Man, it is a great thing to have on the boat. I'll talk about it later in the season, but right now, the number one question I'm getting right now is how did the freeze affect the fish? It's not doom and gloom around here. Yes, there were some fish that succumbed to the freeze, but it just didn't take a toll on our region of the Middle Coast like some parts of Texas. We've caught trout and redfish a week after the freeze, and I mean this spring we've really been getting after it. There's plenty of life left in our waters. Just how many fish were killed, we just don't know. It's going to take months of careful observations by our and biological data to get a handle of the situation. In the meantime, we're going to err on the side of conservation and I help try to change some attitudes around here that you don't have to keep everything you catch. Catch and release is a good thing, and I think we really need to really stay focused on doing that and help our fishery survive. I tell you, our trout have been really good lately over scattered shell. We're getting better tides in what we're doing. We're working the edges of reefs right now, and so we've been throwing live shrimp at them. But what happens this time of year, we're kind of in a transition phase, and from spring from winter to spring, and a lot of our fish are moving in and out, and so we've it's been kind of tough with the wind. So we're kind of waiting on some of those windless days to get out there and kind of see what we have left. Our temperatures have been in the high 60s here lately, and it's been pretty decent on a topwater bite. Some of those new Berkeley topwaters we've been working, and the Mirror she-dogs have been good as well. I tell you, like I said, we're going to err on the good side of judgment, and we're going to promote wholeheartely catch and release of our trout this year, and so we're looking for good things. I tell you, in the meantime, our redfish, the health of our trout fishery has, is undetermined, but our redfish have been good. We've really been concentrating on them. Reds are hardier species, and they fared a lot better in the freeze. Catches have been great around Matagorda for anglers tossing live shrimp on the flat. Then the waders along West Bay, they've enjoyed good catches on gold spoons and those Mirror Little Johns. Guide Tom Brown has been using cut mullet and working the flats on the incoming tide. The rocks off the intercoastal and Matagorda have been holding good numbers of redfish in 2 to 5 foot of water. Port O'Connor Jetty has been great for oversized reds. Most of those reds are coming on fresh table shrimp or cracked crabs on the bottom. A lot of those fish are in 30 to 100 foot of water at the Port O'Connor Jetty, and a lot of them went to that jetty during the freeze to escape it. There's not a whole lot of jetty systems in all of America that have 100 foot of water, but Port O'Connor is one of them. Then in Rockport, guide Rhett Price said he's been working the sloughs and guts on the falling tide and finding redfish on live bait. And then the edges of the ICW have been good on shrimp imitations and the Bass Assassin sea shad. Photo there, that's a beautiful redfish was found working the rocks near Matagorda. We'll go offshore. Red snapper has been kind of the go-to here lately. We don't do a whole lot of offshore fishing this time of year just because the winds won't allow, but we've got some reefs that are inside 9 nautical miles, which is Texas state waters, which never closes, and it allows us, when we get one of those days after a front when north wind comes in here and then it just calms down, we can jump out there, even in our bay boats, and go hit, flying red snapper to 16 pounds, in 30 to 50 foot of water. Guy Michael Quebeca, he's been doing that, and he says, early when after the freeze, those fish had gone past 9 nautical miles and got out in federal waters, but since, man, we've had a lot of 60-degree nights, and our water temperature's easing up to the high 60s, and a lot of those red snapper are coming closer to the beach. So that's kind of what we've been seeing here lately, in the Garmin Middle Coast region. We're going to err on the side of conservation, like I said, and we're trying to change attitudes for the better. We're trying to practice more catch and release here in Texas, and that's always a good thing. And we look forward to a good season here on Texas Insider Fishing Report.
All right, thank you so much, Beak. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots, which would be the Mirror Lure, Middle Coast hot spots. Trout are good on the grass beds in the West Bay on red shad, bass assassins. Redfish are good at Port O'Connor Jetty on fresh table shrimp.
All right, guys, this is your chance to win this 1952 5-window Chevy Hot Rod, generously donated by Captain Rick Murphy. Raffle tickets are $25 or 5 for $100, and the winner will be chosen at the end of the season. So make sure you get your raffle tickets now at ccaflorida.org/hot rod.
All right.
It's gonna be good. All right, Matt Reed, boy, I've sure missed our conversations and those drool-worthy lower catch photos you're always sending in. So let's hear what Lake Falcon, Stillhouse Hollow, Travis, Fayette County, Buchanan, Choke Canyon, and Somerville is blessing us with for our first weekend back.
All right, I'm ready to get this rolling, and I better go because I've got a bunch to talk about. The largemouth bass, Falcon Lake is on fire. They finished up spawning and they're fattening back up. There's a shad spawn going on. So they're really using the shallow rock and gravel points. The best bites on a Texas rig, soft plastic stick bait, or you can throw a Carolina rig with that same stick bait on it. You can also catch them on a shallow running crankbait in that 2 to 5 foot depth range. Numbers and size are phenomenal right now. Brian Cotter sent me a report from that Austin area. Stillhouse Hollow Lake, the fish are on beds. With this full moon that's just come through, there's tons of fish, that you can actually see on beds. You can catch them on worms, lizards, just about any soft plastic that you want to try to aggravate them with. You can also catch them on spinnerbaits and chatterbaits just around the spawning areas covering water. Lake Travis is fishing very good right now. The fish are in the main lake drains and points and on the shallow rock ledges. Throw a soft plastic stick bait around those areas to get you some bites. The top water bite is about to turn on as well. So a walking bait or a popper will get you some big bites in that post-spawn time. Lake Buchanan has fish spawning on the mid to upper lake. You can catch them, shallow around the trees in that 2 to 6 foot of water using any type of soft plastic you'd like to flip, a beaver style or a soft stick bait. You can also slow roll a spinnerbait or chatterbait in those same areas. There's a few big ones using the rock ledges already. You can throw a jig or a mid-sized crankbait to get you a big bite off of the rock piles. Greg Boyd sent me something from Somerville. Somerville is doing well for the largemouth. You want to concentrate on the shallow rocks. Throw a square bill or a lipless crankbait to get you the most bites. Mike Bates sent me a report from Choke Canyon. Choke Canyon's also just kind of crazy right now with tons of fish biting. There's still a few pre-spawn and spawning, but most of them are in the post-spawn phase. We've got the shad spawn kicking in down in South Texas, so that's what they're concentrating on is feeding back up. Moving baits are working great, especially early in the morning with square bills, spinner baits, or swim baits and chatter baits in a shad pattern is what you want to throw and cover a lot of water. Later, you want to pick up your Texas rig soft plastic around the hydrilla and fish that type of cover slow. Most all the fish you choke are being caught in less than 10 foot of water. I love this picture. Little Rolando was with me at Falcon the other day, and that is just that two-fisted giant he's got a hold of right there. I just love those kids when they smile like that.
I do too, Bud. Thank you for sharing that picture with us. Tell us about the catfish, bub.
Falcon Lake catfish. This report comes from Ram Reyes. The water levels are real low right now, and it's getting warm. The cats are in the pre-spawn pattern, and they're just feeding up big time. The large flats along the river channel are good feeding areas early and late in that 3 to 5 foot range, and later in the day in 10 to 15. Cut carp, shad, or tilapia are working best. That's Ram with a picture of a big old blue cat.
Nice. All right. What else we got? One more to go.
One more to go. Got white bass and hybrids from Lake Somerville. Greg Boyd says the white bass and hybrids are very good on small jigs and spinners at the back and the mouth of creeks. The water is so low the fish can't get back in the creeks to spawn, so they're ganged up at the mouth.
All right, thank you so much, Bub. Good report. Thank you. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the lower fresh region. Falcon Lake bass are biting extremely well. They are on the shallow rocks and gravel points. Throw Texas rigged or Carolina rigged soft stick baits in green pumpkin to load the boat. You can also catch a bunch on crankbaits that run 3 to 5 feet deep.
All right, y'all, the ALVEY Reels Lower Coast region is closing our debut show out coming up next. But first, Dave Farrell is taking us new product shopping at the workbench.
I think I'm going to take a nap is what I'm going to do.
You look like
I'm going to take a nap. It's like a nice pillow.
All right, well, we'll wake you up.
It's not really a pillow. Could be a pillow.
Could be a bag.
I could use it for a pillow.
You could use a pillow. You could use anything for a pillow. All right, we'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Mirror. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. R&R Tackle. From our tackle box to yours. Berkeley. Your fish, our science. And STARTRON. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
Enjoy the water and your single-engine boat even more with the incredible control of Helmmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. Helmmaster EX packs the power of world-class control and automation that is changing the single and multi-engine boating experience forever. See Helmmaster EX in action at a Yamaha outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
The only reel with over 100 years of heritage. ALVEY Sidecast reels allow you to cast over 150 yards with up to 900 yards of capacity. ALVEY's state-of-the-art drag and 22-inch retrieve rate per wine is perfect for any surf challenge. ALVEY reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the ALVEY also comes with a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alveus.com.
So it's time for the new products. As you can see, we're not at the workbench right now, but I got my good friend Mark Henderson from Taco Marine. You know, Mark, last year we soft launched the Shade Fin, and the one thing that came to our attention is that the Shade Fin last year when we first talked about it, it was designed to be deployed off of your T-top in a rod rack. But now you guys have done some modifications to the holder for the inshore guys. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know, Rick, it was real obvious to us that the bay boat, skiff families, and fishermen also need shade. And this is a cool product that offers that. And we came up with the telescopic rod holder accessory mount, and we're real proud of it. It extends, it lowers, it revolves in a 360-degree rotation, all while holding the shade fin. And so it gives a lot of protection out there all around the boat, on the gunnel, in the leaning post, even on the side of the console. If someone's out in the water, it does a fantastic job. And you know, Rick, we also built it with this fulcrum point that adapts to the many different size rod holders, whether it's 0, 15, or 30 degrees. So pretty cool option.
What I like about it is that we can adjust our shade throughout the day. You know, as the sun changes, a lot of time the shade on the boat does as well. One of the features that we have here is we have this ability to open up that and rotate the shade fin over the boat, over the front of the boat, whatever it may be. So, I mean, that's one of the features that I really like. Now, why don't we show everybody how easy it can be taken apart?
Absolutely.
If you'll step up there. Oh, well, before we do that, let's talk real quickly about this mount. This is the T-top mount. It obviously has the ability to change the different angles as well.
It does. This comes separate. It's a adjustable rod holder mount, puts right in the rod holder, adjusts to many different positions that allows you to follow the sun, put it in out of the way if you're fishing underneath, bottom fishing or whatever. It does a really good job with that.
All right, let's take that, show people how this collapses. So you go ahead and take that, Mark. We'll put it in that rod holder right there so we can get to it. I'll lay this down, stick this right here. And then it's pretty simple. Why don't you walk out there on the dock and I'll pull back on this.
All right.
That closes simply like that. Push down on this.
And it does a real good job. All you do is close the back arms.
All right, Mark, while you're doing that, where do we go to find one of these?
Rick, all you have to do is go to tacomarine.com. It's right on our website. And you can also visit many of our special retailers, great partners out there. They have it right on the shelf.
Love it. And it comes in a beautiful carrying case to be easily stored in my rod locker on my Skeeter.
Yeah, real simple. It comes in a mesh and neoprene case. Does a great job. Thank you, brother.
Good job, man.
Appreciate it.
All right, Dave, what do you got for us over there at the bench?
Well, we're going to show you my pillow that I had before. I opened it up. It's not really a pillow. It's a wet dry bag. And this is the 25-liter version. It's called the Gill Tango Wet Dry Bag, blaze orange. Comes in a 10-liter and a 25-liter. This is the bigger one. The 25-liter has a lot of nice D-ring attachments on it, so you can hook stuff up to it if you want to keep it with it. Perfect for a little skiff or something, you know, because skiffs are always getting wet. You got your wallet and your keys and maybe a towel or something you want to keep dry. This is how you do it. It's got the nice roll down and collapsible, just like all the nice wet dry bags do. All welded seams, has a nice clear area so you can actually look in it before you need to. Puncture resistant fabric, wide mount, and it's, you know, the big one comes with a little shoulder strap for you as well.
Nice.
Gillmarine.com. They've been making stuff over there for a long time, the English company. Bang lures and some Bass Assassins here. We got some RSB. It's called RSB worm, which stands for the redneck spinnerbait. And what that means is this is a kind of like a speed worm. You know, you can work this worm a little faster. You want to rig it with this little tail it's got to be horizontal. Not vertical, straight up and down. You want it to be horizontal, either one way or the other, so that when it comes through the water, this tail really kicks hard. And it's like that fat job he was talking about earlier, except it's got a tail on it. So it's a really fat worm with a big silhouette, big bass eat it, and you can either swim it by itself, or you can put it on a swim bait jig, you know, like a little weighted hook, and just throw it and retrieve it back through the lily pads and everything, and stuff will pile on it. Just keep it moving, you know, keep that tail moving, and you can crush them with it.
That's BassAssassin.com.
Put it with a nice 5/0 wide gap hook is what you need, because it's a big worm.
All right, tell me about the laser sharp eagle.
Well, that's the L2004 ELF. It's the Billfish non-offset circle hook. You want a non-offset circle hook. You don't want anything sticking out to the side that can catch in a place that's soft and then pull out later, and then you blame the hook.
Right.
You know, a nice circle hook needs to be, you know, that point has to be coming right back straight to that shank. And we also have the Trocars there, the AP circle. They're a nice big billfish type hook. You know, you can catch a small blue marlin or even a great big sailfish on those things all day long.
Welded eye.
Welded eye, inspired by surgical instruments. The Trocars have a 3-prong point on them so that they penetrate with half as much force as their nearest competitor. Those things are very sticky. They go right in, and they need to penetrate bone or hard jaw, because that's where those things are finding. If you let them get swallowed, and then they work right, they come right back up to that jaw hinge, and it's a pretty tough area. So you want something that's going to penetrate and pop right through there, and that's what those trocars will do. Cold forged, high-end carbon steel.
EagleClaw.com.
EagleClaw.com.
All right, Dave. You did it.
I did it.
You got one behind you.
One
now we only
show down.
25 weeks to go.
Oh yeah, let's go. All right, the ALVEY Reels Lower Coast region has it all, from reds and trout to snapper and wahoo. So let's give a warm welcome back to our last captain of our first show and see what we can look forward to on the water this Easter weekend. Hello, Chad Kinney.
I tell you what, look forward to everything. I'm fired up for this weekend, of course, Easter, but heck, the whole summer. This is the start of it, springtime. All the seasonal changes we can go through. So the show, I'm ready to go. We're going to do some inshore and offshore action. Inshore here, we're on the lower coast course covering from Corpus down to South Padre Island there. But the trout action actually has been pretty consistent, but it's been down around South Padre Island, the south end of my area. And they've been holding that deeper water. And the redfish are doing pretty good all along coast here in the muddier flats with some cut bait and using fish bites. We've been having some higher winds and stuff, so that the fish bites have been working well. So starting out with those trout, like I said, they moved into some deeper water after we had that real big cold snap, and they've been seeming to remain there. I see some water temps. They're going to start creeping up now, but they're not still kind of where they're normally at. So they're holding there. So work those drop-offs along like the long bar and also the Brownsville ship channel. You can use a heavier jig head with this because you might be fishing in 15 feet up to 30 feet. You can throw a saltwater assassin sea shad. I like that, with a lot slower retrieve. And if you're fishing along the edge of the drop-offs, along a long bar, tying a mirror lure top water, you can work the edge of that stuff, the top of the sand pockets. Remember, also, there's lots of guts that work along that long bar, so work the guts and also the drop off towards the ICW. When I'm talking about working these baits slow, I'm talking like you catch that saltwater assassin out there, let it sink to the bottom almost, and just slowly retrieve and barely jig it. You'll get that winter bite, even though we're getting in here in spring. And then on top waters, just walk that dog, but don't walk it normally like you would in the summertime. You have to dig a few twitches and let it sit there for 10, 20 seconds. You might get a blow up then. Moving on to the redfish, it's really actually been pretty good in the flats here, near drop off by the guts also. With these higher winds, fish bites have been working really good with the Carolina rig. We've been attaching a strip of it to an Eagle Claw, like a 3/0 tail hook, and then of course have like a half ounce to a 3/4 ounce weight for finish up the Carolina rig there. Dead shrimp and cut mullet also been very effective and stuff in the higher winds, especially when the water gets really muddy. Live bait has been kind of hard to get by. We own 3 shrimp boats in Mansfield Marina. I've got 1 in Ingleside, which is Corpus Christi, and 2 here in Port Mansfield. But we just started catching live shrimp in Corpus, so you'll start seeing that come through. And as that goes along, things will start picking up and changing also. But the fish bites will really get you through during this period right here and through the summer. Got a picture here of a nice slot redfish. Lots of redfish out there in the flats, like I said, that muddy stuff. Moving to offshore, I'm fired up with the state water snapper fishing. It's always good down here in South Texas, but you got to pick your weather here between the northerns. And some wahoo have been showing up out some deeper structure around that 200 to 400 feet. I was just out snapper fishing a few days ago in state waters, and I haven't had this in years, so I'm really pumped up. We saw a little blue strip in 70 foot. It was green blue, but it wasn't blue blue. It was great color, but you could smell the sorghum. I looked over, I actually saw booby birds, and there was a huge stretch, a big rip that was 30, 40 feet wide of sorghum. I hadn't seen that for a long time, so I'm going to go up deep this week. I'll let you know what's going to be happening where the weed lines are at. But state water bite, been really good between the weather, between the northerns. Most effective way right now is take plenty of bait and different types of bait. And then, unfortunately, I get some heavier weights, but using the Eagle Claw circle hook at 12 to 13-aught, I really like that the best. The reason for using that bigger hook like that is when you get that circle hook's going to do its job and hook that snapper right in its jaw, and you can roll it out a lot easier than having the smaller ones where you have to fight with it and get stuck on that little jaw side. And the fishermen staying a lot closer to structure and bottom due to the currents. It's between the northerns, currents been playing heck. So take some bank weights with you. I start off normally with an 8 ounce, and if current gets really bad, you can just always double up, add another 8, go to 16 and so forth, and it goes good from there. I got a picture here of a state water limited snapper. I got a bunch of big snapper there working on that.
Nice.
Moving to some wahoo. It's been showing up around there at 200, 400 feet. Normally our really big wahoo stuff hits here in February, before the show, but it really hadn't hit, but it's getting good right now, that water temp from that snap. So Troll to 3 lines, using some mirror lure divers and some Islanders rigged with some ballyhoo. You guys remember, always rig this stuff with some wire, do a haywire twist, prevent some of the cutoffs.
And troll this. I like trolling around 7 to 8 knots, unless you're doing some high speed in between stuff. But if you're on structure, 7 to 8 knots, work that structure really good. And those weed lines like I was talking about, there's going to be some really big weed lines coming. I haven't seen it for a long time, and I'm looking forward. I'll keep you posted. But got a picture here. This is this first, they pulled up to the marina in this boat, and this is the first wahoo these guys ever caught. And we had to go weigh it in. We had 100.3 pounds.
Wow, Chad, that is a monster, buddy.
So welcome to South Texas, and welcome to Texas Insider. It's on.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Chad. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boats, hot spots from the lower coast region. He says inshore, South Padre Island is producing good numbers of trout in deeper water, with redfish feeding on cut bait in the flats. And then offshore, state water snapper fishing good with some wahoos out deeper and around that structure in 200 to 400 feet.
That wahoo. That just made me so happy. He said, welcome to Texas Insider Fishing Report. And that's what you're going to get every week.
Nice one.
And you know what else you're going to get? You're going to get to watch this girl grow throughout the season.
Hashtag grow on the show. I'm pregnant.
We've got a little boy coming, ladies and
boy's
gentlemen.
coming in August. Baby Leo.
Baby Leo to be
So
the little brother of Mamma Mia.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a good season. The
We're
fish are gonna be big. I'm gonna be big.
I'm not gonna
He's
be
not gonna
big.
be big.
I'm going on a
I'm not
diet.
gonna get
Somebody's
into that.
got to be skinny around here.
Dave and I.
No, we
Happy
both
Easter, everybody. We'll see you next
Night,
week.
night,
Go catch
guys.
them up. Thanks for tuning in.